you Wow, that was loud. Welcome everyone to our June 11th, 2026 City Council work session meeting on a Thursday because we have budget to discuss. Our meetings are public and you're welcome to join us in person or by watching from our council agenda page, Zoom or YouTube. We hope you continue to join us in whichever manner you feel the most comfortable. This is a work session meeting during which there is no public comment. Please join us on July 14 during our 7 p.m. formal meeting to share your comments. We, of course, welcome your feedback anytime by mail, and you can send that to P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84114. You can also email us at council.comments@slc.gov. You can also call our 24-hour phone line, and that number is 801-535-7654. I'm almost memorizing all of these things by now. I'm excited. Comments we receive on agenda topics are shared with council members and posted on our website, slc.gov/council. Now, the first item on the agenda is fiscal year 2026-2027 budget for unresolved issues, and it's a follow-up. We're going to have our staff, Lehua Weaver and Jennifer Bruno, both directors, our executive director, here online, available for questions. Mary Beth Thompson, Chief Financial Officer. And how do we schedule this conversation? How do we go about this? Who wants to break the ice? Who wants to talk about all the genius ideas that you've been thinking about?
Mr. Chair, really quickly, if you don't mind, we did receive some new, we did receive some new information yesterday that I think is important to clarify from our conversation that we had on Tuesday. Thanks to the attorneys and recorder's office team for really digging in and understanding the nuances of the new law. On Tuesday, we were under the impression that the council was capped at the mayor's property tax increase proposal as of June 1st, because that was one of the last notices we sent out. We are now of the understanding that the council has until June 22nd to decide what that property tax, for lack of a better word, ceiling is. So that is another tool if you guys felt the need or want to increase over the mayor's property tax increase proposal. I suppose maybe one other piece of news is just the new growth numbers as they are right now are actually in a good spot in terms of being relative to the mayor's recommended budget. So there's actually a little bit more than is what is in the mayor's budget. But as we know, those aren't final until they're final. And as of conversations with the tax commission yesterday, Salt Lake City is complicated, and so they're needing a little extra time to kind of get those finalized. So with that, I'll leave it to you to decide how to go through it. I have a slide deck we can walk through, but there's been tons of ideas thrown out today. I just sent to the front office and to the analyst team, and so maybe someone can print out maybe a spreadsheet version of all the ideas that have been thrown out today. And so if that would be helpful, Councilmember Young, I will email that to you right now. Not sure if that's, I'm not intending for that to be how your conversation is guided, and I would not be surprised if I've missed an idea or two, so please let me know if I have.
So, Jen, one of the new pieces of information that you highlighted was that we do have the ability to modify upwards the proposed tax increase if we so wish, which it was new information from what we understood since last meeting. That's correct, yes, I think. Yes, okay. Erica Carlson, council member.
So formal, Erica Carlson. I think before we get into, talking about any changes to the budget, I feel like it's really important for me to at least clarify some values and some things that are guiding my thinking in response to the budget. One of those things that is really guiding my thinking, and I don't want to speak for others, but the prospect of a property tax increase is not something that I really think about lightly. And it's not just a property tax increase, it's a property tax increase that is coupled with an increase in public utilities. And so these are necessary things that we have to invest in. And I'm going to be looking to how can we mitigate the impact of some of those things by ensuring that any programs that we invest in for the public, that there's really an opportunity for those programs to go to the neediest of individuals. And there's an income verification that I might be looking for to make sure that those programs are truly going to those who need the support, especially in this difficult moment of time. So I just wanted to offer that framing, Mr. Chair, and to my fellow colleagues, that I'm taking these things with a great sense of responsibility.
Any thoughts that come to mind to continue the conversation? Eventually, we're going to have to discuss some of these the specifics, but Councilmember Dugan.
I appreciate the comments, and I agree with you here. I mean, I think the mayor did a wonderful job on the budget. I think their staff and everybody looked to everything very carefully and deliberately, and we're very sensitive to all the needs of the community and the departments. And but I also see that we can take another finer look at it, whether we have additional growth above what was estimated in our budget, or whether we have a need to, if it's below that number. So either way, I think we can take a look at some of the line items we have and possibly reduce that property tax side of the house and maybe shift some money, but also making sure, again, that we are taking care of everybody in our core values, but also am very also sensitive depending on if there is a higher number, looking at some of our core infrastructure funding too, and that fund balance. So I'm appreciative of all those conversations, and I appreciate the conversation we've had over the last 48 hours as we look at all these line items and try to find where to shake it from. So,
yeah, and many of us been working through the budget and make notes. I know that we all have different ways of absorbing the information that goes through in the presentations, reading the book, and getting feedback from the community as well, and our own lived experiences. So it's a mix of all of those things. And over the several weeks, I made notes on things that I was curious about. Some of those are in this list. They're not all mine. Some of them are mine. Maybe I have a few of those. But I want to basically, since Councilmember Carlson, you went through and presented your values first. I want to frame that conversation that way too. That's very smart, and I think it highlights what lens I have. And the issue here that I see is the impact on the community, and with all of the impacts they are feeling, I feel like it is a responsibility for us to tighten up as much as we can tighten. At the same time, balancing our own public servants in our city that are putting so much on the line and working so hard to keep the city going is tough, because in many cases we're talking about salaries and positions and FTEs. And what I suggested generally, and many of these things in the list are one-time or ongoing, but some of them are capital improvement type of savings. So not employees. Although I'm suggesting or exploring the possibility of reducing a very few amount of them. It's hard. It's a hard decision. And knowing what, for example, Denver has done or Las Vegas have done, where they had to fire and let go really, fire is not really the right term, let go hundreds of employees because they are feeling the same constraints that we are, and they want to minimize the impact to future budgets and feeling the same pressures here. I felt like we need to make tough decisions this year. If not, we're going to be in the same position next year, and it may be a harder one then. So that's how I'm seeing the budget. I am not saying that any of these things in this list doesn't have merit or they're not doing good. What I'm saying is it's tough, and I'm suggesting or exploring the potentially of reducing projects or programs that we may not have the money to afford at the moment. So that's sort of the frame that I'm going through when I'm exploring these things. Councilmember Petro.
Thank you. And I know you and I have discussed this. We represent some of the highest concentration of people at risk for displacement, working class who are not able to absorb $6 a gallon gas and all the other things coming at them. If we cannot prevent an increase, what we can provide is predictability. So as I'm looking at this, I would really appreciate us not just doing Band-Aids for 1 year, but any cuts, any suspensions, anything that we decide needs to be enhanced, that we're looking at it with a lens of what does this do to us next year, and if possible, even the year beyond. My goal is for my neighborhood to provide maximum predictability so that if, for instance, we know water rates in our utility system is under constant stress, we may not be able to prevent increases, but I can tell you that I really want to see more private funding flowing into not just pet projects, but necessary structural work to ameliorate that, right? I can tell you that I want us to not do a property tax increase next year, which means ameliorating our dependence on general fund right now has to be a priority. So those are the sorts of guiding principles that I want us to be really deliberative about, and make sure that if we have to ask neighbors to absorb a blow, that it's not just a Band-Aid to get through a tough budget year, but it's something that sets us up for maximum predictability. Even people who have more significant resources than many people in my neighborhood, if they're living on a fixed income, need that kind of predictability. So.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yeah, I don't think anybody up here wants to raise taxes. But part of the reason that we're in this situation, a major reason why, not the only reason, but that there are costs that come from, years of state budget cuts, federal budget cuts, and a lot of those are in the areas of the people that are most vulnerable in the community. And I would love to be able to cut more, but I don't see how that is possible with, I think the price of doing that is having another tax increase next year, almost certainly, and also on top of reducing our workflow, asking employees to take a pay cut, and the employees that are not proposed to get a raise, we're essentially asking them to take a pay cut by continuing without a cost of living adjustment. So I wish there was another option that allowed us to check all of those boxes, and there just isn't. So rather than talking about reducing the cut, or reducing, the increase, I would rather talk about how to make sure that this increase lasts more than a year.
I think that your thoughts go, and maybe this is how we can start coalescing about some ideas. Your thoughts regarding that, if we, some council members, I include myself on that, have suggested additional reductions. And some council members here have told me that they want that not necessarily to impact the tax increase or reducing the tax increase proposed right now, but to cushion the general fund to make sure that next year we're not sort of cornered yet again into tax increase, which is like quite obvious in some regards. So, while you're not saying that, I feel like there is a general, connection there as far as like you want to see that whatever tax increase we end up doing this year doesn't really continue to perpetrate, happen next year and year again. So if there is no more general thoughts about this, any more thoughts about this, I will, maybe the way to go is let's go through this list that council staff was.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Oh
I
my
have my
God.
digital hand raised.
I am so sorry for not seeing you, Councilmember Young.
No worries.
I acknowledge you. I know you're there, but I didn't see your yellow hand. Maybe the yellow hand could be a little bigger. I mean, the little window will be amazing. But maybe we should put a screen in front of the table here for your face. So, Councilmember Young.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess I just wanted to add two things. One is just kind of a plus one to the topics that have been raised by my fellow council members. I have nothing but trust and admiration for the service that all of you bring in terms of representation of, the various communities. And I think we all share in that fact that, times are very difficult in terms of both the economy and the pressures that we're seeing, from things outside of Salt Lake City's control, while also recognizing that those impact our direct costs to maintain even the same level of service as a city. And working with each of you to try and figure out what that balance is just really does give me a lot of appreciation for the hard decisions that are being made here and the thoughtfulness that everyone has brought to the table. I also just want to agree with, the statement of Councilmember Wharton related to future-facing fiscal years in terms of staff compensation, and that when we do say that there is not a kind of general adjustment outside of those individual considerations related to market rate for the positions, we are effectively asking our staff to be able to do more with less, both in terms of rising insurance costs and their own kind of economic pressures that they're facing. And so I'm very grateful to the staff of Salt Lake City who are, really leaning in and dedicated to the work and working with us to weather this year, but that's going to be on the table in future years at the risk of otherwise losing staff and having attrition within that space. The last thing that I just wanted to make sure, at least I'm being articulate about and accountable for, is the fact that we do have an expectation that utility rates are not on a flat trajectory. It's something that I've heard from the Metro Water Board presentation. I've seen in our own analysis in terms of being able to, continue to reflect the costs of the projects as it relates to the interest payments and things like that. And so that even from the property tax standpoint, as much as we can lean into not having to do that a year after year, I completely agree with. But that I do think that the landscape currently shows that we are on a trajectory to see moderate increases over time for public utilities in the future related to even the current infrastructure and commitments and projects that we have. And that does factor in, like Councilmember Carlson says, to the overall impact of the city services and decision, and just kind of keeping that on the radar. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Young. Councilmember Carlson.
I would like to, I know it's not in order, but I would like to go towards item number 45 on our list, which is a request around restoring the Hive Pass. And so, so we're all on the same page. This was recommended to be cut in the mayor's recommended budget. And although I know a lot of folks really love this program, unfortunately, not enough are really using it to justify the administrative and operational cost of it. I know some of my council members have changed some of their perspectives on restoring the Hive Pass, but I feel like the administration put a lot of thought into thinking about what should be cut, and I would just like to say I'm okay with that recommendation from the administration. I don't know if any other council members who are hoping we could save it want to speak up about this.
I wish we could save it. I think that maybe all of us wish we could save it. I heard from a lot of my neighbors, that they use it, about the value of it. And the concern here is sharing the cost of something that is useful for a lot of families throughout the city, in a budget like the one that we have in front of us, we have to make tough decisions, and that might be one of them. I might be in the minority on the issue, but I understand where you come from. I would love to see significant changes. Hopefully some of the things that maybe I brought to the table to fully commit to say we're also reducing other things that are, that might not have the same impact. So, maybe we can go back to one that is the exchange. Councilmember Dugan.
And I've been one that's gone around in circles on the Hive Pass, because I think the public transportation is so important. And I'd love to have just free passes for everybody, but I know that's a pipe dream. But I also know that this program, though hasn't grown, but we've also got UTA's got other programs, and I almost feel like we need to work with UTA on, because we were spending a lot of administrative costs in this program that could have gone to the more passes. So I'd really like to work with maybe UTA on this and not having us have too many projects and just maybe one program. So I'm sad that we have to cut it, but I also understand that we also need to do it. So I'm with you, and I've changed my, and I think it's a necessary but hard cut.
I think that to your point, the other portion that is still in the proposed budget, which is the portion that subsidizes kids to take on their parent,
and that
still
one,
there.
right? And that was still there, and it's growing. The number of kids, we could hit over 800,000 trips on that one, and that's one that is growing. And this one was really flatlined and only.
And we are not administrating that, which I think it may be a rubric.
True, right.
A rubric
yes.
of how we
and
do
it's
things
and it's a
like
partnership with the foundation, UTA, and the city on that one also.
Yeah. It's a good combination of we providing something that maybe that is needed, but we're not administrating ourselves, so it's not costing more taxpayer money, and we are seeing an uptick on use. So I understand that. Any other thoughts on the Hive Pass? Okay, I would like to jump to 31, which is the landscape exchange program, which I think it is a good program. I'm not, again, and I'm going to preface this maybe every time that I'm mentioning something, but this is not a passing judgment on the program, on the goals of the program, on what is accomplished, or what amazing work it does. But this is much like Hive, so I think it feels similar to me. A program that exchanges lawnmowers and other I think that's what it is really, equipment to electrical one. Yes, no council member, but Lehua.
Yes, just Lehua.
Almost better than a council member, I would say.
I just wanted to translate the numbers because staff added a couple of items, so the line items changed for some So this, you're referring to 31 on the old chart and 37 on the one just passed out.
So should we use the new one?
If you don't mind, I
Let's-
think that's what people are working
Let's
from.
throw away the small one.
Sorry,
we don't
there's
get
a time.
confused.
I'm so sorry. Thank
Councilmember
you.
Young, can we make sure that Councilmember Young has it?
Yes.
Yes. And I am sharing my screen just to make sure that at the very least it's on the screen. So I will send that updated version to Councilmember Young. This actually added an item that I had left off that Councilmember Young reminded me of. So thanks.
So we're talking about 37 then, which is reduce
Yes.
the landscape exchange program. And again, I think that it's a good program, but this is not the year to keep it. So I don't know if there are any thoughts about this or in favor, maybe torn, or against it.
Can I ask a quick question?
See, Councilmember Young.
Sorry, I'm jumping in.
Please do that, because
Apologies,
that.
apologies. Thank you. So this is more a procedural question. I know we're approving the budget for this fiscal year and that's the charge that we're tasked with. Have we ever considered like moving things where we're considering it like that one-time reduction? So we're eliminating the funding for this next fiscal year, but still keeping it on a future list. Is there a mechanism for that? Or is it like, no, you're making that decision, and if you wanted to bring it back, that would require council action in the future?
I mean, just from my perspective, I'll jump in and then maybe Mary Beth or the mayor's office could jump in. There's nothing preventing you from making your intent known, and we could note that on any changes to say one-time reduction. In fact, the mayor's recommended budget uses that language in relation to the one-time reduction in the transfer for affordable housing to the CRA. So I think that that's their intention, was to just suspend it for this year and revisit it next year. I think it will take just institutional memory and a review of this year's budget documents to make sure that it doesn't get, accidentally fall through the cracks for next budget year. But that can
Okay.
certainly be communicated.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Pui, I guess that would just be my question. Is this something that you would like to eliminate, or would like to, consider a one-year elimination? I'm just curious where you stand on that.
It's hard for me to completely eliminate when I'm torn. So to me, it's a simple, I prefer to say suspending the program for this year. Reevaluating again next year with whatever budget comes to us. That will be my preferred method.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that. And I look at this, and again, I'm just going to say the same thing I said just last 2 seconds ago. These are hard cuts. And, the air and the quality is a big issue. The noise quality is a big issue across the city. And I know that there's also a state program for this. Again, are we having a program, the state has a program? Are we administrating a program the state has? How do we promote the state's program so that we're using the state's funds instead of our funds, so that people can still get their an incentive, but not taking it from the city dollars, but from the state dollars? And so we're like promoting the state's program while in one way, but not using our funds. I think it's, we did the e-bikes and we did the lawnmowers, and it was like within a day, everything was gone because everybody jumped on it right away. And I can see this happening again here. So I like to see it there, but I also, again, like to see how we can promote the state's program, so we're using their dollars, which has a bigger depth for it than ours. So, is there a need to fully cut it all the way out? Do you cut half of it at this point? Again, we're having here and there's, but I see a need to cut it, but I'm not sure if I want to eliminate it all. But I also want to see us promote the state, so we're spending their money instead of ours.
Yes, Councilwoman Carlson.
I too feel the consternation around this program. I know people love it, and I think it's hard to cut something that people really like. and is a tangible benefit to them. But some of the things that are going into my thinking regarding this is a reality that there is a state program that people can apply to participate in. And the other reality that there is not a income requirement for this program. And what's really important to me is that if we are subsidizing this, that it's really going to the neediest of individuals for whom this could make the difference for them to transition to electric equipment from gas-powered equipment. So I am definitely open to the proposal of pausing, if that's, I don't know if that's a technical term, reducing, finding that balance.
I would like to maybe propose, a draft of a legislative intent that is in my mind regarding these things, which is that we study, other organizations that may have similar programs, also partnerships with private sector. I know that has happened before in similar program when they did the state did the sprinkler controller, which I think that we should do it again. But also add income requirement to programs like this. So we're helping people that, that need it, and they need it the most. I think everybody will take a couple $100, extra, but it will be fantastic if we can prioritize those that need it the most, and they cannot afford to replace their equipment, and we can help subsidize those. But so maybe that's something that could be used. We can form that idea a little better, and maybe staff can help me into a legislative intent.
Yes, we'll work on drafting that based on this conversation. Does that mean the funding would stay, or it would come out with that legislative intent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to keep the option open to maybe not fully cut it, but let's look at what would come out at the end of the day here.
Nickel and diming me right now.
Nickel and diming, we're going to spend 30 minutes on $5,000.
Look,
as we said.
I think that maybe to that question, maybe we could ask, what is the administrative cost of running this program? And it may not make sense. But I will say to you that one of the when I'm comparing is never fair, especially on these things. But comparing Hive to this, we're talking about users getting a pass they use throughout the year, and exchanging a lawnmower, right? And to me, one personally have a bigger weight. Both of them are valid. Both of them are useful, but I lean towards one more. So if I have to keep something, I prefer to keep it on Hive, right? And I'm not sure it's pertinent either. So that's why I'm using Hive as this filter to judge. Am I being irrational about this? I agree with you. I wish I could keep it, but I'm open to that. Let's see maybe how we go through the cuts. But it seems like many of us have shared general interest in it. Any other thoughts on this?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, it was hard for me to hear because I'm not in the room. Does that mean should I back it out for now and then we'll put it back in, or should we just maybe highlight it to come back later?
I think that maybe I received enough council members' information to say that we probably should remove it.
Okay, great.
So mark it as that now, and then we can go back to it. We are all here. We'll all remember this conversation, maybe unfortunately. Any of you have the courage to pick one of yours in this list to bring about?
I'll bring up number 23. The drone pilot program. I think the drone system and the drone program has been very beneficial for the city, and I really appreciate that. And we have a number of drone pilots or qualified individuals who can fly the drone around. If we had the money, this would be great. I know this is 10 months, because I think the ongoing cost is more than the 136. But I can also see us saying, let's review this at January, after 6 months of the budget, after a few months of the the sales tax, maybe a budget amendment and other things to see where we are in fund balance to bring it back. But I would like to reduce that by half, so from 10 months to 5 months, and take a look at it at that point, and we can bring it back on a budget amendment. It's not a big cut, but it is, because I think it's a worthy program, but I also don't think we're in desperate need at this time.
Councilmember Young.
Thank you. So I think I just had a clarification question about this. My understanding was that the request for the drone pilot funding, some of that was in infrastructure, not in operating costs. And so if we reduce it by half, I don't know if that achieves like a feasible 5-month effort. And so I guess I'm just seeking clarification on whether it's for operating costs so we can go down to a factor of 5 months, or if it's infrastructure related, in which case it may just make more sense to hold on those infrastructure improvements to achieve the same outcome.
The 136 is for the FTE
Okay.
itself. And then, but we can confirm that. That's what's in the budget book, but we'll confirm that. Unless Michael Sanders is in the room and could clarify. Sorry, Michael, to put you on the spot if you know. If you don't.
He's coming on down.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the 136,000 is related just to the drone pilot. The infrastructure cost is related to the other line item for the real-time crime center.
Got it. Okay. So if Michael, if I can ask a follow-up. So then if we're reducing the FTE component, does that impact then that infrastructure ask in terms of like a similar reduction?
I'd have to ask the chief and get back to you on that. I believe the infrastructure cost is mainly for like drone repairs and things of that nature. I don't know if they actually, what they need in terms of infrastructure 100%, but it's mostly repairs and perhaps another drone dock, but I'll check in with the chief.
And I guess that's my question. If we can get clarity around the cost of the additional drone dock, that would also be a space where it's just not an improvement we can make at this time. And I think maybe a little bit different than the FTE approach. So thank you for that.
I will open to discussion on this. I am torn because I was shown evidence that the drone program will save us a lot of money, and it's saving us money on FTEs from the police department. And for those that have concerns about the the use of data and all that, the city is looking into improving the policies and whatnot, and the records and around that. But also, it reduces interactions with police officers, for when it's not needed. So there is a lot of efficiencies, and other jurisdictions are seeing a lot of efficiencies with this. So I want to make sure that we keep an eye on it. I'm open to discuss that. I would love more information about why 10 months. Could we reduce that to less months? Could we reduce that to part-time or other versions? So, Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you. I would love to hear a little bit more about, what would be the impact if we to Councilmember Dugan's suggestion, we, started this position in January and we saw what the impact of it was. And to Councilmember Young's question about the infrastructure, do they go hand in hand? I'm open to learning more about, what the right balance is on this. I am not, just to be clear, I'm not open to cutting it totally. I would like to still maintain funding, but maybe we can do some budget math, budget magic, and reduce when that funding is appropriated. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we should ask a lot more questions to the police department, and we are looking for efficiencies to to continue the program, to keep expanding the program. I think it seems like we have been talking about this, but we were interested in if there is any way that they can potentially keep growing without the need of a full pilot. Are there reductions in there that they can or efficiencies that they can find as an option? And to Councilmember Young, about the infrastructure, could we reduce that instead of the FTE?
Okay, I just did look at the staff report one more time and saw that one of the line items is for the drone dock specifically, and it's $250,000, a little over $250,000. It just says that it's related to ongoing costs, so I don't know if it means a new drone dock, and I don't know specifically if it's like one drone to one drone pilot. So I'll follow up with the chief.
And whether that's part of that 397 or in
It's
addition?
separate. So
Separate.
yeah, it's separate. So there's a 397 for the real-time crime center, and then there's a 252 that's specific for the drone dock.
And Chair, if I can just add one other additional consideration. So I agree with you in terms of the efficiencies that we get related to reducing additional FTE needs versus utilizing technology in ways that allows us to save money for places that we don't necessarily need that police interaction. I think the other piece that I consider in terms of prioritizing maybe a reduction in the infrastructure as opposed to the FTE, when you adjust that FTE level, that is oftentimes harder to maintain staffing for because now all of a sudden you're either offering somebody, a time-limited position, or you're changing somebody from an ongoing position to time-limited with the point of review. Sometimes that means that we don't necessarily get the same expertise and or experience in those use cases just because they're a little more like, I'm not sure that job is going to continue. And so I lean towards infrastructure so that we can still get, top quality individuals who are participating in this program.
That's a good frame. I was wondering why one or the other from this conversation. So that helps me understand what your train of thought is. I think that we have some questions for the chief about this, and we need some creativity. I think that we're looking for some creativity to see if there is some option to grow for less money. So we want to do both. So it seems like, what is the proposal for Jennifer to Mark? What do we want to put half of that in there?
Yeah, my thought was to delay it. So you're going to delay
just
and
delay,
save,
that's-
basically delay this cost by 5 months, from 10 months to 5 months. And because I don't want to cut up the drone pilot program, but I also want to make sure that we have drone pilots that are qualified, but they're also flying the drone so that they're very comfortable flying it and using it. A lot of part-time drone pilots, then you end up with safety issues. You have other kind of issues because you don't have enough experience by actually operating the machinery and the equipment. And so let's look at that, but let's just delay it. Really is what the point here is, delay it, and let's see how it works, and then we bring it back.
So by delaying, you mean not putting any money on the bucket?
No, it'd be half that.
Like half a year. So start the funding in February.
Yeah, whatever
February?
6 months is, yeah,
February,
right.
for 5 months.
Because it's 136 is for 10 months.
Okay.
And that's usually how we do an FTE. We do FTE for 10 months, so I was just going to cut it in half, make it 5 months.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else wants to speak to this or have the courage to bring their own?
Well, since we're here, the next line item, 24, around cameras, supplies, and equipment. I have a question about, regarding this line item, how much of this goes towards repair and replace versus repair, replace, and purchase new equipment? And so would love to get an understanding of, how does that break down financially? And to name, I have a slight preference towards repair and replace at this point in time.
I struggle with that because public safety is one of our core services, and this has been a tool that has helped us big time to reduce hot spots in the city. I've seen it with my own eyes in my own street, and I don't know if this is the place that we should compromise. But I think having an idea of how this money divides into these three packets, I do struggle with cutting public safety, especially when we have good data that proves that it's effective. So I struggle. But this is where I see the value of doing this tightening up of our belts if we cut other pieces of the budget that seem less important is not the right word, but like less urgent or less impactful, or they have a positive impact, but it's more limited. So if we are able to make some of those, then I understand maybe next in line is not buying a new one. So worth to explore. So getting more information will give us the actual number. Is that how you expect that? Okay. That's 397,000. We'll see what that looks like. Councilmember Carlson?
Sorry. The last item is number 25, which is a leadership development program. And I would love to explore not cutting this totally, but maybe reducing the cost of it from 100,000 to 50,000. And what's informing my perspective on this is that I saw just, across the board, many departments, police department included, but everybody really tightening belts around a lot of different things. And I saw some instances where leadership development in other departments were, either cut or paused or delayed. And so I felt like this might be one of those areas where we could reduce the investment of it and see if that can help alleviate some of the weight. I know it's not a lot, $50,000, but I feel like over time, all of these things really add up.
I'm supportive of that.
Councilmember Dugan? Okay.
I do want to be careful not to undermine. I spoke with Councilwoman Carlson earlier. We are unabashedly pains in the neck when it comes to our public safety apparatus and our police force, demanding a lot out of them in terms of professionalism, how they show up, how they handle creative situations, how they are innovative and forward-looking. And so I don't, especially because we do rely on recruitment from former military, I don't want to inadvertently create a situation where we're expecting a culture that we're not investing to cultivate. And so I would like specific information on how we're cultivating that. If this contributes to that, I am really apprehensive to cut it. I think we're asking men and women to come off the streets of Fallujah and to recognize Salt Lake City as something different. And I'm so thankful for the people who keep us safe and who are willing to do that work, because it is not my calling, but I want to make sure that we are equipping them, especially if we're going to be trauma-informed about everyone else, we have to be trauma-informed about our own staff.
Yeah, I struggle with it too. And I think that maybe for many of us have been in the council where we were losing police officers left and right, and we had some issues retaining them, and morale was we have some issues with morale. I will struggle with sending some mixed messages there. It not only impacts the force itself and the recruitment and the retention, but impacts how they interact with the community. So I'm open to explore it, but I want to make sure that if we end up doing that it's carefully cushioned.
And very valid points, because leadership training is so valuable for across the board. It's kind of sometimes hard to quantify, but you can also see that the leadership in the police department is fantastic, and our staffing level is great, morale is good, and we're seeing a lot of productivity from that. So we want to make sure that the leadership training is still there, and that's why I think the idea of this reducing it, because we know it is valuable, and and maybe we can find some grant money to offset some of that funding, and the police chief can look for that, because this is the kind of training that keeps our leadership strong, which then keeps our core values strong, which keeps our boots on the ground strong too. So I think this can still be a plus, and it's not really a minus in that case.
Yeah, open to discuss.
Yeah.
I will have more information. I think it's a really good find.
Mr. Chair, if I could just share really quickly, since this is the first item we've touched in funding our future. So this particular line item was funded with the funding our future category, which is that extra sales tax that the council levied several years ago. At the time, the council committed to only spending those dollars on certain categories. Those are the categories at the top there: housing, transit, public safety, infrastructure, and parks maintenance. So that's why we keep it tracked in a separate column. So as we go through this list, we will figure out sort of what the balance is of everything. You don't have to figure out how to balance everything in funding our future. That doesn't need to be balanced the same way that general fund needs to be balanced. Although obviously you have to have enough money to pay for all the things you want to pay for. But I just wanted to make sure to flag that for everyone.
Thank you. Councilmember Dugan.
All right, I'm just going to go down the list. Number 28, the reduce of seasonal employees, a new property tax proposal. And again, I'm not wanting to cut this all, but I'm just trying to look at some of the trimming. We're asking Public Lands to do a lot, and they've done some tremendous work, and I appreciate all the work they've done for my district on the parks and everything else, and taking all my calls of trimming when I need it trimmed, and because I have some needs up there sometimes to do some of this kind of work. But I also look at this time like, hey, we're reducing our watering, so maybe we need to reduce our cutting of that lawn. And so is there a way to reduce some of that? And maybe it's already in the budget, but reduce some of the seasonal employees that are doing the seasonal work in the parks, keeping the grass longer, not cutting a lot of the areas, and just trimming that budget. We're using that, we're going to slice it in half. That's just an easy number to use. I'm not sure if it's a full half, but how can we reduce that number by even if $100,000? What does it look like as far as the maintenance of it, and just in the cutting of the grass and maintaining the stuff that we can do without really affecting the trees and the overall operational of the systems?
Anybody else? Seems like there's only three. Okay, Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for that suggestion, Councilmember Dugan. I actually would love to hear a little bit more about this, understand, so if it is reduced, what would be the impacts? I didn't see as much, and it could have been that I missed it in the budget, but wanting to understand more of what types of things this would fund.
Right, because it talks about the new properties, and we have new properties, and we also have new stuff coming up. We got Allen Park coming up. We have other things coming up. So I'd like to get maybe a little more. And my mistake of not asking these questions 2 weeks ago on the Public Lands, but I'm asking them now.
Okay. The staff knows what we want from this. Yes?
Yes.
I hope so. Yes, okay.
Sorry, thank you.
No. I guess we're going through the list in order. So there is version 29. That's you. Who's 29? Is there more people to speak to 29? Okay.
I didn't specifically request this one, but when I ask my neighbors if they've seen park rangers, the Cottonwood Dog Park people are the only ones who report that they did, and the function that they observed was picking up dog poop. As I still don't have what success looks like for this program or what a metric of success is, it feels like a place where we're not getting impact and a concrete ROI at least in my district. I know District 3 is going to come for me real quick as soon as I say that. And I understand that, but it's a hard one for me to justify with my neighbors, and it's one that I hear a lot of static over. But I did not request this one. I'm just riding the coattails of other
Thank
people who did.
Anybody else want to speak to it? Councilmember Ward.
I do, because I would rather see maybe like a shift in focus, if that is the concern, than eliminating the program, because for me, this saves us a lot of money in terms of calls to the county for animal control. This saves on calls to police for issues that are happening on the trails. It helps with a lot of the camps in my district, and calling in nonprofit partners to come and answer those calls. If we eliminate these positions, I think that we're just going to see more calls to the non-emergency line as opposed to, so I know I also have not officially a constituent, but I'll call them an honorary constituent that is frustrated with this item and doesn't feel like it's generating the return that is necessary. I understand that criticism, and so I think that there's a way that we can adjust that in terms of what programs they're focusing on, as opposed to eliminating the position. I do think this is one of the alternative response models that we initially rolled out, and that we have said that in past budgets we have expanded. I don't want to go back on that. Thanks.
I struggle with it because I don't know if cloud watching is an alternative response, but I do believe that some of the functions do fit a space that is an alternative response versus calling the police. But there is no data to back it out, as far as I know. And I would love to base these decisions a little more with some information. None of the proposed here are eliminating the program altogether, though. They're like reducing it. So I feel like maybe reducing it and rescoping it to keep the things that you value, that we all value, might actually accomplish the same thing. And maybe the cloud watching portions of it can be removed, but the parts that are essential to as an alternative response are more, enhanced. So we still see the value as an alternative response. But I would love to get more information. I didn't propose 29, but I proposed 30, which is eliminating 3 positions. So 2 park rangers and 1 manager. That is $100,000, $105,000. And that is, again, I think that with your idea of rescoping some of the portions, I think we can still see the value in our streets. But
Well, I guess the concern I have about, and I appreciate you clarifying, yes, we're not eliminating the program, but we would be laying off some employees, and I feel like the data argument goes both ways, that if this were neutral and we weren't laying somebody off, then I could say, okay, we need more data before we expand it. But we're saying we don't have the data to justify keeping these positions. The other way of saying that is that we don't have the data to eliminate the positions either. And, these are individuals who are, currently work in our city. I don't want to just eliminate them based on anecdote. And if we're going to talk about doing it based on data, then I think we have to acknowledge the lack of data cuts both ways. And so if we were going to do it by anecdote, then I would be happy to offer many anecdotes that to counter the the cloud watching or the wildflowers concerns.
So I want to see if I can because I'm noticing I'm getting a little confused myself here. So I wanted to just step in and clarify a couple things. In the mayor's recommended budget, there is a recommendation for the reduction of 3 park rangers. That's correct, yes? Yes. Okay. As I think about this issue, if you've got a reduction in, let's say, frontline staff, it makes sense to me that there may be a corresponding reduction in either lead or supervisorial staff because what is within their scope of responsibilities has decreased. And my question is not reducing the program. My question is, what is the right balance with a already proposed reduction in park ranger frontline staff, a corresponding reduction in supervisorial or lead positions so that the organizational structure matches?
I can't answer that question, but we can certainly pass it on. Actually, I believe Director Kim is here.
Yeah, and I would love to further ask, and what I'm not interested in this meeting is necessarily to have a back and forth with administration. I would love to get feedback, quick feedback, or top of line feedback, but ultimately deeper questions answered in writing, if possible. I would really appreciate it. Because I think this is a really good, it feels like a safe space for council members to, express their mind and then get actually good answers. No, they've never been bad, but more answers that we're not influenced, to be ashamed to say. It's hard. I will say, I would like to preface this conversation by saying that I still value the program. I think there is a lot of amazing things that they do. But maybe my question to the administration to add to that is, if we are shrinking the things that they do, and one of those may be, and I'm not saying there is no value on cloud watching, bird watching, wildflower, and understanding nature, and valuing, putting value in our public spaces, and there is a lot of great value into that. But when I'm cutting, transportation passes because we don't have money, feels again, they don't compare to me. I have a struggle to fund one versus the other. But if there is a way of reducing the scope of the work, could the program continue with less people, with a few people? Kim, if you really want to, I would love to have you. But you can always answer the questions after.
Thank you. I would like to provide a more thoughtful response by Friday. Is that what I heard? But I do just want to mention, I appreciate the reference to our cloud watching program. It was one of actually our most attended programs. So Salt Lakers, some of them at least did enjoy that. But some of the supervisor duties that go beyond just direct supervision, like payroll, things like that. They're actually developing our interpretive programs. And that workload, we wouldn't think would change with a reduction in staff. So we're happy to provide a more comprehensive response to the questions, but I appreciate the thoughtful dialogue. Thanks.
Thank you. And I appreciate, my frame of work, my frame of seeing is can we find some savings? So I'm gonna try to find that. Councilmember Wharton.
So what was the answer to that? That you're gonna be able to get us some more?
Well, I'm happy to answer the question that I understood to be with the reduction, what is the appropriate balance between supervisors, lead, and frontline staff? And then with the reduction proposed in staff, what does the programming shift look like? And how we might change patrol hours, interpretive programs that are offered, things like that. So the council has that information as you're making the decision.
And when would we be able to get that?
I will do my best to get it Friday. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. I know it's a lot of work. Maybe we all need to do some cloud watching.
For the record, I do like the cloud watching. I may be the only one, but being a student of meditation and mindfulness, I see the value in it. I recognize I'm in the minority.
But I think we have to acknowledge we are in a need to have budget, not a nice to have budget. ARPA is gone, and our neighbors are experiencing inflation at the highest rate now in 7 years, according to today's headlines. And those working class people who we invested millions in thriving in place to not displace are literally on the line with our decisions here. So, understanding what you said, I don't think the default is to ask neighbors to continuously shoulder more burdens. I love to live in a place that has nice to have things. We have to be very serious about what we're doing.
Councilmember Young.
What is the proposal is to reduce, sorry.
The proposal is to
You
get in
never
line for-
interrupt anybody. It's okay, Councilmember Young, if I give him the time. He never does it. I'm always like losing the chance for him to say anything. You're okay, or you have something?
No, please let Councilmember Wharton go. I'm happy to
Councilmember
go
Wharton.
after.
So I understood this to be that that the proposal was to eliminate these and put that money somewhere else.
We haven't gotten to that place.
Okay. Because
to where the money's going.
I feel like that's isn't that kind of integral though to the question?
I mean, the two options are, the two options are reducing the tax increase or put it into our general fund and,
I mean, we're never compelled,
Fine, yeah.
we're never compelled to spend money. If the state's any example, we don't even have to spend it on our statutory responsibilities. However, we're going to
Right.
spend it on our statutory responsibilities, but we're never compelled to spend money. So I think for me, I've discussed this with several of my co-counselors. As I'm looking at these decisions, I'm looking at this from a lens of not only what does it do to this year's budget, but what's the likelihood that in the next year we will be in another position where we're having to make really hard decisions? Are there decisions now that I can make? So I've disclosed to everyone, I think, except my new colleague, that my predisposition is to take anything that we are able to save this year and reduce our reliance on one-time funds from the general fund to make sure that next year we are mitigating the gap that we have to cover and are in the same position.
Okay, but that makes me feel like it's being framed as like this one line item is what's going to make or break either having to do a tax increase, having to do a second tax increase, or make or break one a household's budget. And recognizing that all of these things add up, I do understand that. But like even the aggregate of all of these numbers on this column, like we're talking about a $13 million structural deficit.
No, our structural deficit is not 13 million.
it's probably much lower.
Or sorry, 18 million. So I'm going to use, no, I'm not going to use that phrase. I was almost going to use my favorite budget phrase, penny wise, pound foolish, but I'm not going to this time. Sorry, Lindsay. Oh, she's not here. So I guess I would want to understand more about like how like these particular cuts and these particular amounts, like what do we get for the cut?
Yeah. Councilmember Young.
Yes, and if I can just, I guess, add to the request from Director Shelley. I know that you guys have a really great website for park rangers where you are kind of breaking it down by those six core activities you've identified for rangers. I guess I had two questions. One is, would the reduction in FTEs impact the allocation of how that time is being spent against those six core activities? And are the reduction of FTEs specific to certain parks, or is the intention for it to be a pool that's then absorbed across the city? If we can just get clarification on those, that would give me the information I think I'm looking for to help inform my decision.
You're getting a thumbs up from
Thank you.
Director Shelley. I would love, any information. I know how impressive that department is, and I think that the argument of rescoping some of the work and how that could potentially benefit the program as well, like to keep it going, but do it in a different way. But I think one of the questions that this council asked for a little while, and I think they're there, is about the data as far as all the alternative response tools that we have in the city. One of those suggested to FIRE to expand the third chat team. So to me, when we're talking about what it does, potentially we could save some money and put towards a chat team that we actually have more evidence of their direct impact. Not that the impact the park rangers is bad, but I think that we could potentially subsidize the creation of a third chat team, which I think that to me is something that we all value, so I'm hoping that maybe we can find some funds to do that. I didn't add the chat team here. I don't know who added it. Councilmember Young.
So I want to make sure we give credit where credit's due. It's also Councilmember Dugan. And again, I think too, Councilmember Pui just spoke very elegantly to it. As we think about what the needs are in our city and how they are more diverse, than some of our surrounding municipalities, the addition of those social workers really makes a difference, and not just in terms of anecdotally being able to see it, but also really looking at it in terms of expectations of a general city safety response, and recognizing that there are emotional and psychological impacts that also need to be attended to in the same way we attend to if somebody has had a major injury. And so I appreciate that we have the existing kind of paramedic side of the team that's already available. So really what we would be looking to do is to fund 2 social workers that would complete that into a full chat team so that we had 3 available kind of on rotation in the city.
Does this amount represent any PPE or other things that those social workers will need, or is this exclusively for their salaries?
The estimate came through Salt Lake City Fire, and so I would need to follow up on if there's additional operational and equipment costs. It's a good question.
Can we ask the administration why they didn't propose an additional chat team? I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but I assume if the administration had the opportunity to consider it, maybe I'm missing something.
We would have loved to. We couldn't balance
Okay.
by adding it. That's all it was.
But you also see the need.
Yeah,
It was just a matter of
100%.
okay.
Great program. We were trying to balance the budget.
Okay.
Rachel sent me a text saying that we aren't cutting the Hive program because we don't have money, but we're cutting it because there is very small ROI, so for the cost. And the second one is on the alternative response models. There is some data came to us, so we're going to review it. So thank you. Any other items that we want to talk about?
Did we talk about number 36? Okay. So I want to go on the record. I didn't propose any of these increases or decreases. I am low maintenance this year. However, I've talked to some other council members who are looking at the food micro-granting program, and I do believe that there could be a cost savings there. However, I would like to propose that it's just a reduction. So we've done 58,000, and it's been typically 250 for individuals, and then community programs could get between 1,000 and 5,000 to promote food growth in individual contexts. Super highly supportive of this year, but I would like to take it down to just 20,000. And I would like it to be up to 200 households eligible for $25 a month for the 4 growing months to help absorb the anticipated increase to water bills. So that would be June, July, August, and September. Have them send a picture of the boxes where it's growing. But I want to encourage people to grow food. I am worried with 100% crop failure and rising fuel costs about the availability and the price, if available, of food later on. So I would like to make $100 flat grants available to subsidize the increase, with a special emphasis on those who exist on fixed incomes or who are low income. So I had 2 senior women in my neighborhood tell me they weren't going to grow gardens this year because they were worried about it. And then the rest of that money to be either reappropriated or just returned to the general fund.
And when you say
So
reappropriate to the, go ahead, Jennifer.
Sorry, so it would be $20,000 administered by sustainability for the program you just described, and then $20,000 to the program you just described, and then $38,000 to the general fund.
Yes, and Jen, you know me, I would hate to be accused of legislative overreach, so I would never tell you that sustainability has to do it if you found another home for that money. Just that I would like it
put it in the
distributed
wrong
for those
column.
purposes.
I had a short conversation about this because I look at the microfood going, this is a program that we want people to have, put food on the table that they have. And I also understand that the public utilities has a program to support people to help pay for their water bills, and that's increasing. But I also, this is the balance of on that funding side, and also it's gone from 250 down to 100. Can we ask sustainability to, do you have any, can you tell us a little bit about the micro program?
Thank you. I don't envy any of these discussions you're having. Very tough. I just want to say this program is one of our kind of leading edge affordability programs that we have in our department, and I believe in the city as well. And taking the tools of the toolbox away for this food resiliency program would be quite devastating. We do know that over 30% of the people who did apply for it are using it to change out turf grass, to put in gardens, to do water irrigation, drip irrigation for their gardens. There's a lot of concern about the impact of water costs on vegetable growing. So that's very much in line with also the applications that we received for it. Also, the high number of people that share their food with their neighbors. It's a big majority of people that are kind of using it to help bolster their budgets around food. So,
Is he 250? Is that the minimum or is that the maximum? Is that what you're?
I think it was a flat.
it's flat for, yeah, and I would say the residential impact of this program is hard to overstate from our perspective, maybe understate, sorry. But yes, it's a flat 250.
So maybe if you would just, do you think that reducing it to $100 would be?
So the original proposal as it came to me was to eliminate it altogether or suspend it for a year. I don't feel comfortable with an elimination or suspension at this point, but I do feel comfortable with tapering it this year, making it very focused on this one thing instead of buying the garden box or the soil, making sure that the people who have historically done it are able to continue. And so that was when the suggestion to cut it was brought to me. This was my suggestion of repurposing and mitigating some cost.
And then just reducing the flat fee from $250 to $100, and I just,
Correct,
that was,
and that to me amounts to the 4 months that people will be watering gardens. That's the expected. That's what I'm expecting the increase to my bill to be, between $25 and $35 a month. So that would just allow people to have some stability through the growing months, so that they could, if they had historically grown gardens, continue to grow them.
So Councilmember Carlson and then Councilmember Warden.
No, are you sure?
No. Okay.
Okay. I'm interested in Councilmember Petro's idea. I definitely like the idea of it being more limited to like food, or, you know, really like more necessity than something else. I think the theme for me is that if I don't want to inadvertently make something worse or harder when we're trying to do the opposite. So can you talk about like your thoughts on this proposal and like, is there a way to do that effectively?
In fairness, she just heard about it. So while I trust your brilliance, Sophia, I do acknowledge how unfair it is for us to ask.
Well, several minutes have passed since you brought it up.
You
So.
want my opinion? Ooh, no pressure. I completely agree with the intention of what you're saying, Councilmember Petro. I think that while the organizational side of these grants is also really, really significant, I think that residential side is where we feel like we're doing the most good in terms of helping people who are facing so much affordability challenges right now, and we hear that time and time again in the feedback we've gotten, and we included some testimonials in the responses sent to council last week, I think. I might suggest maybe keeping the 250, but maybe not doing the organizational grants and adjusting it down from there. But if you're asking me.
If I could jump in. So as I understand the program, it is up to $250 for residents, and then grants of the size of $1,000 to $5,000 for organizations. And I would like to keep the emphasis of the program on residents and individuals, and rather than grant towards organizations, instead see, can we reallocate some of that towards our public utilities assistance fund?
Can we clarify if it's up to 250 or just, I was under the impression it was just 250.
It's just a flat 250.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say that we do have people that have asked us to use the funding for water. We do point to that program, and then this is just to help them perhaps with other things. But
I'm okay with that. If we increase the amount, we decrease the impact. So if we do choose to increase the amount, I want some parameters around it for those who are on fixed incomes. I'm very worried about my seniors. I need people who are on fixed incomes to be prioritized. I need families living multi-generationally who have a high water burden because of the number of people in their households, and it needs to be restricted to food. You can let grass die. I know it doesn't look pretty. I've done it. My yard is terrible. Just let grass die. You don't have to have green. Like when we're talking about prioritizing money like this,
yeah,
food.
Yeah,
So just
absolutely.
Quick clarifying question. So you wouldn't want it to apply to water because then people might use it for grass? Is that what you're saying?
No, the point of the water subsidy was to grow the food. So originally, in the original thing, it was to you have to send in a picture of the garden that has the food growing. Some like low threshold kind of barrier that demonstrates we're not just growing zinnias because someone has a propensity for them.
Got it.
Absolutely. And that's in there already, but we have run income verified programs before, and I feel confident we could do that.
I'm not upset with a higher amount. I do want us to make sure it gets to the people who need it the most, though, and not just the people who are most connected to city initiatives and know that Quick 250 is theirs.
So I think that maybe that goes back to the legislative intent to make sure that many of these programs that go directly to individuals have an income requirement. I think that we should apply that throughout, unless the administration feels differently. I just do want to clarify something that I sometimes forget, but we are awfully on the administrative side of things, and we could say you don't have the money, or we can say the only way you have the money is if you do these things. So we could share some ideas as far as how a program maybe, what we are trying to accomplish with the program, but we're sort of changing things. And the administration may choose not to use that money because they don't want to, they can't, or they have a different, or they disagree. But I think those are all good ideas, and I love them. I will love your department's thoughts into them. We're trying to squeeze from all the places. We're not speaking about the value or how useful they are or how great they have been. We're talking about tough decisions moving forward. Any other thoughts about this one? Thank you.
So was that majority of council support on that? It's in the property tax proposal. So, or the way it would be reduced, from what I understand, is with the general fund contribution towards the E&E fund, unless you have other ideas of how.
I will say that there's maybe 3 council members that have expressed opinions about in favor of reducing it. And I don't know. about
Councilwoman
the
Young
rest.
texted a support.
What?
Councilwoman Young texted her support.
I'm
Oh,
supportive.
4.
I'm here.
4.
Great.
Oh, I'm okay, I'm, yeah.
5. Okay.
I'm a tentative
wow.
yes.
Tentative yes. Do you mean to cut the cloud watching? Too soon. Too soon. I know he will not back down. Who brought that? That's 40 too, right? Like that was similar to you mentioned. You spoke to about 40, right? Line 40.
I have not spoken about 40, but this was actually Councilwoman Carlson's suggestion, so I don't want to
Oh,
take your
so
thunder.
sorry.
Well, and I think what I ended up doing was just putting that into the notes on 36, but maybe, sorry, Councilmember Carlson, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, I think that, just to clarify, what we talked about previously, I just have a desire to increase the assistance that we're offering to this Public Utilities Assistance Program. Because this is an income-verified program, Salvation Army administers it, and it goes to the neediest of folks to help them pay the increasing cost. So I think we're okay with not discussing this because we already talked about it.
But the comprehensive proposal then would be to take the original 59,000, pare it down to whatever we decide, like maybe we say 25,000 since 250 is easy for them to do. That's 100 households. And the remainder would then, instead of going to fund balance, would go to the public utilities assistance to bolster that. So that would be 34,000 if I'm doing something like that.
So we're still spending the 58 grand, we're spending partial food,
spending it in different
partial.
places.
We're just
utilities.
focusing it really on the water aspect of people's lives.
And the food grant
So
would go to
30
the food grant would go to individuals, not to groups
institutions.
or institutions. Great.
So 33,000 would go to so 25,000 would go to the Public Utilities Assistance Grant.
Right.
Sorry, I have to do the math backwards because it's like a negative expense. So patience while I try to do that math. And then you would spend it from the property tax increase proposal. Okay. Okay.
Good on this then. Several of us mentioned the IMS innovation program. I do see the value on it, but I also think that maybe there's a way of reducing some of our costs. It's a one-time money, it's not ongoing. I know that there was some information that came to us about this. I don't know who can speak about. Is there any information from our staff, about the IMS innovation program? No? Maybe not. I don't know if anybody else wants to speak about potentially removing. Who? Okay. Council members who wants to speak to it?
I am a little bit agnostic on it. I could be convinced to suspend it and to delay the implementation of it for a year. If I see it implemented, I want to, again, I get that we're getting into administration, but this is the only time we really control, we have any meaningful say. I want to make sure that the innovation is innovation that is meaningfully beneficial to our constituents, to either their engagement with the city, the ability to get access to a resource, their ability to be connected to the things they need to weather the storm that we're going through. that's, if we're going to innovate, I really want it to put, and I'm not sure how to do that, to put parameters on it, to make sure that the innovation is one that is in the interest of efficiency and effectiveness.
Anybody from the administration wants to speak to this? Anybody that wants to?
I think you have this information, but I want to make sure you received it. This, while it's a new program, it wasn't new money. And so by taking this, you would be taking more than 5% from IMS's budget. And so, I don't know, Zach, though, I'll let you speak to the program.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple of things. One, I fully recognize this is a tough sell in a tight budget year. And the returns are nebulous, and I fully admit that. The Denver Peak Institute, when they implemented it, saw something like a 3-to-1 return in their first year and a 5-to-1 return in the years after that. But those are really difficult numbers to calculate, and they can't be guaranteed. My feeling is that empowering staff has really great results. You tend to have people with good ideas that don't necessarily have the ability to bring those ideas forward, and it gives them a forum to do that. That said, I fully recognize this is a tough one.
Since you've looked at other models, I love the numbers 3-to-1 and 5-to-1. Those are inspiring. Can you give an example of what a return looked like?
Gosh, that's going to be a tough one. I didn't bring any examples with me.
And if you want to like email me later, just.
I do remember, so I went through this training years ago, and they were generally things, this is where it gets a little bit nebulous, and I want to be very transparent about that. Some of their calculations were things like constituent time, as they were able to reduce wait times in lines. And so that's not going to be a direct dollar savings to the city. But you do have greater customer satisfaction. You do have greater engagement and efficiency, and folks walking away not quite as negative about the experience they had paying a bill or going after a business license.
I mean, this is why I'm agnostic, right? Like, I mean, this is a need to have year, but oftentimes scarcity mindset leads us to not invest in things that could, if we can give predictability to our neighbors and be the one level of government that doesn't make them want to become an anarchist, I feel like preserving institutional trust at any level is a good investment, right? So this is why I'm a little bit agnostic about it, and I'm not sure what the matrix for good decision making looks like on a program like this.
Councilmember Carlson?
I think my question is that given the fact that the returns might be nebulous, we don't yet know what they are, I'm curious, what might be the impact if the allocation were reduced by half instead of 200,000, 100,000? And how would that, if at all, lead to a reduction in possible anticipated outcomes from this program?
So it would be, since you want to cap the funding at each of these, because you want these to be small, innovative ideas, and you cap the funding at, call it $25,000 or $35,000, you're just going to approve fewer programs. And that might be beneficial. That might mean that we come back halfway through the year and say, look at the great work that was done, and we've been able to accomplish these things. Some of them have monetary value. Some of them have return ROI, but it's non-monetary. Do you want to increase the funding or bring it back up to that $200,000 to do more work? I like the idea of reporting the results, and we may come out of this 6 months, 8 months, 12 months from now and say, we actually didn't accomplish much. And the ability to pull back and kill the program if it's not actually delivering, I think has value.
I would love to explore, different iterations of this funding, short of, removing it, but could you, what can you do with 100? Is there something that doesn't work, right? Maybe there is an explanation that you can give us that keeps some of it, but maybe not all of it. We're trying to scrape from a lot of places.
And I think, maybe I might propose that we go through the initial funding round, and depending on how it pays off, come back to the council and say, this might be worth additional funding throughout the year.
Councilmember Petro.
That's almost exactly what I would love for any pilot program to come with really clear metrics. I don't expect anyone to prognosticate accurately. I anticipate, but I would like to know what we're aiming for success. And then even if we accidentally hit a different positive outcome, I'm not going to be like, oops, that wasn't the one we wanted, and cut it. But especially if we're asking for this to be an ongoing thing, I would really love to see clearer parameters for what we're aiming for, what success will be, and then an engagement around if we achieved it or not, to see if whatever we decide is something that we should continue.
What I would say is that I would think that each ask should have its own definition of success,
Yes.
right? So what I found, frankly, the county, one of the challenges we had was we demanded it be a monetary ROI, and that severely limited the request, and frankly, it limited them to things that we would have done anyhow, right? If you knew that you were going to get a 2 or 3 or 5x return on your investment, that's not even a budget proposal. That's just the way we do business.
Yeah, thank you.
I like that. Any other thoughts? Thank you. Thank you, Hugo.
So, Mr. Chair, is it okay if I put in a $100,000 cut in that one? With the understanding that, as Jill clarified, that this is existing money in the IMS budget that is being repurposed, so this would just be increasing the reduction to IMS from the general fund for operations.
Yes. And I would love to hear that information from staff about a pilot program and how it will look like. It might guide this decision, but yes, let's put that one for now. Pending, it's all pending. Nothing is final.
So maybe a legislative intent for that mid-year report on the pilot program.
I like that.
Can we request? I'm not sure how this fund is going to work. I would like to know before the mid-year what the goals are, so that when we hear at mid-year, we can see. But I don't know how the program's going to work, so that might be too in the weeds. But I don't like reverse engineering metrics. I've written enough grants that you should be a little forward-looking on them.
The goals could be provided in writing so that the council is just aware of what those are.
And
Is that
and I think
sufficient?
Zach's point is really great. Like, we don't know where the innovation necessarily is going to come from. We don't know if it's going to be in business licensing or if it's going to be, where it is. So I don't want to like be unnecessarily restrictive, but if there's a way to set parameters for rigor in setting a trajectory for success and a metric for it, just like some kind of general framework for that, I would be deeply interested in something like that.
Gotcha.
Mary Beth.
So Jennifer said I was allowed to come up if I wanted to make a statement. So the 200,000 sits in the IMS fund, not in the general fund. General fund is about 65%. So if you're going to take 100 from the general fund, it's going to reduce the funding in IMS more than down to just $100,000. Does that make sense? Because IMS has 200,000. You're saying we're going to take 100 from the general fund, so we're going to reduce IMS by 100,000. That means IMS will not have $100,000 to do this innovation work with. They'll have less. So I just wanted to make a statement on that.
I think that maybe saying that we want to, however the money lines up, we want IMS to have 100,000.
So that would be a $65,000 reduction in the general fund.
Okay. But let's work with that premise. It's accounting, and it's
I'm just thankful for Mary Beth. Did we talk about number 37 yet?
We.
Okay. Okay.
Councilmember Petro, anything else to add about 37?
I think at this point, anything that I'm suggesting or supporting, I would like to be suspensions, not full cuts.
Yeah.
And I would like there to be a revisiting. And to go along with what you were talking about earlier, Councilmember Pui, I would like a legislative intent around any sort of voucher we give out as a city. I'm not convinced that our vouchers have accomplished what we say we want them to accomplish, which is to inspire transitions to cleaner energies or to lower emissions. And instead, what I think we inadvertently do is just enable people who were already on a trajectory towards those things and make it more affordable for them. So I would like, anytime we provide a voucher for anything from the city, to find out how do we achieve that goal, or I would like to be corrected if I'm wrong about that being our goal. How do we achieve our goal through a voucher program of actually incentivizing a change in behavior instead of just enabling one that was going to happen anyway? And that's not exclusive to this. This is to any voucher that we do. It's the food voucher. It's the, all of it, so.
I like that. I agree. CIP, a section of CIP reductions. Councilmember Dugan.
Yeah, I'm on the 43. I think I would say we need to keep that, and 45. I'd say we need to keep that because I'm always talking about deferred maintenance, and I don't want to cut any deferred maintenance because deferred maintenance means that it's going to be more expensive the next year when we need to do that deferred maintenance. But item number 44, again, it hurts me because I'm a big proponent of the trail system. But if we're looking at, some ideas here, and we just fought hard to work on our trails program and get our trails underway because they're loved to death. I also think that back to the deferred side of the house, is there an opportunity to reduce this, not eliminate this, because the trails that's where I spend some of my time. And I think there's a lot of people who do spend a lot of time out there, and we know, again, we love them. So I would like to see the possibility of reducing this number, but with the opportunity, if there's funding can come back, that it comes back to full.
I feel the same way about the urban trails, and I know it's been a commitment from our city to do it.
Yes.
We have worked very hard to make it happen, but this is not saying no to the goal here. It's saying no this year, and saying let's start it or let's continue this progress next year. So saving us $450,000.
Well, I would like to keep some of that. So I would, I would only cut half.
Kind of half. Okay, let's see what the administration tells.
Yeah.
Maybe they're here if they want to speak to it.
And then I'm okay with the rest of them, keeping them.
To keeping them?
Yeah.
When you read the Washington Square septic.
Yeah, but this is one of those things again for my deferred maintenance. Yeah. Boy, you have an emergency on the sewer.
This is a septic program. So this is what I read the explanation. It said we are pumping it a lot because it gets full a lot.
Yeah.
And basically, it's being used more than has ever. It's one of the most used places. And my question is, can we not expand it and add more money for pumping for this year and saving us? It's almost $1 million. And I know that it's kicking the can down the street, but I would love.
Yeah, what I had here was that this program would save the city a good amount of money every year. So it actually it would save up to $80,000, decrease a significant decrease of $80,000 annually in maintenance operations. So in a couple of years, your return on investment, especially if it's in an emergency, is pretty high in the facility world.
Yeah.
This is replacing the septic system at Washington Park, not Washington Square.
Yes, Park.
Right.
Yeah, so it just says Washington Square, so I just wanted you all to know that this is the park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it says that direct and significant decrease of up to $80,000 annual in maintenance operations and emergency costs.
Yeah.
So that's 10 years or 11 years return on investments. On some people, if you go to businesses, they'll say, I want a return on investment in 3 years, but they're always skeptical. But when I could put my solar panels on and I got a return on investment in 10 years, I said, yeah, I'm taking them.
Yeah, and I'm not lobbying against it, ever doing it. I'm saying, can we do it next year? right? Like it seems like it's getting full faster.
Yeah, I just don't know the cost of things, how much it goes up in the year that says it. It would be I would keep it just for the deferred maintenance side.
Yeah, yes, go ahead, please.
I can never miss an opportunity to talk about septic. So it's not, it's undersized for the amount of use that we're getting, but it's also in a sensitive watershed area. So we don't allow dogs in that park as well. And so if it does overflow, there is a public health risk. So I just want to make that point for council.
Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts about this one from anybody? Jill?
I'll just share, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why this really was prioritized by the mayor is it's one of our, it is the most used park in the system. It's by Mountaindale, and we are having to limit events there because of the septic tank. So the park we're having to close it down at times because of the septic tank.
Yeah. My question for the administration will be, can we increase the pumping for a year? Or what? Or porta potties?
Ooh.
But can we increase the pumping for the year and kick the can 1 year? It's almost $1 million, and there's always a building that's falling apart, and we have plenty of them, and I would love maybe some information. I'm not sold on cutting it though. I'm just like a little more information and see if we can kick it for 1 year.
Could I provide this tomorrow as well?
Yes.
Okay, that would be great. I think there would be, to Councilmember Dugan's point, there would be significant cost. And so I'd like to get those numbers for you so you can make the decision.
Thank you. We talked about Washington, Not Square, Park, thank you. Urban Trails, we have not talked about the facilities maintenance. Is not called.
Yeah, that's the one I would keep, because again, back to the deferred maintenance on the facilities side of the house.
Yes, and I would love.
And I understand, we're looking at all this, and this is when, just like our street stuff and the deferred maintenance, the price never gets lower. And I understand that we need here, but I also go, we have to balance that $13 million property tax increase and the price of this, though high, the return to the city and the community and the residents is very high also. And delaying it could be.
Do we know what buildings there are? Councilmember Carlson.
That was going to be my question, is that is there a list of buildings? And then I appreciate the priorities 1 through 4. Is this a life and safety thing, a structural question? Would love to understand a little bit more. What are the buildings and anticipated allocation of dollars to those facilities?
And I know the administration is prioritizing all of them. Oh, yes. Go ahead, please.
Kate might have some information. Yeah.
Well, sorry, what was that, Jennifer?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I see Jorge there. Sorry. Yep. And then Kate emailed some information just right before the meeting that you probably haven't seen.
Jorge?
All right.
I will allow you even without shorts because you guys won today.
You'll have your turn. You'll have your turn. It's
I'm
coming
just
up.
kidding.
Super exciting, by the way.
I know it was.
All right, yes, we shared a list with Kate, and it sounds like you received it as well. I can just speak for the amount of money that is on the table, 1.6 million. We have about $10 million of identified assets that need to be replaced across the city. Some of the priority ones that you will see in your list include assets in City Hall, as well as multiple fire stations. So HVAC systems in fire stations are pretty expensive to replace. These are not repairs. These are the full replacement of the HVAC system. And you will see the estimated amounts of replacement for each one of those items. We don't like to lock us into saying 1, 2, and 3 will be replaced, because through the year, once funding is available, we may need to shift a little bit. For example, if we have a catastrophic failure on an overhead door, we will replace that immediately, right? It is in the list, we just bump it up. Same with HVAC. So we identify about 10 million for this coming year. You will see that many of those are way past their useful life. So if you have specific questions about those assets in the list, we'll be happy to expand more.
Will the department consider, if we had to reduce the overall request, what will you give away? And I will not put you on the spot right now, because I know that you probably need to look into it, but knowing full that the risk is high and that you might have to come back to us for a budget amendment, which it's not ideal because it's fast, you need the money immediately and whatnot, but will you consider maybe looking into that, and if you come up with an answer? I know you're already doing that, right? Because you have 10
The
million
first thought that I had, probably only one council member remembers this, the boiler, the infamous boiler. It was a catastrophic failure. It was deferred maintenance. We kept pushing it. It was a very expensive replacement, and it literally blew up in our hands. And so the disruption that it caused, I'm looking at fire stations with HVAC systems. If it was a catastrophic failure, it basically says during the summer it will be miserable and perhaps not even occupiable. So it is hard in good conscience saying, yes, we can push this to next year, but understanding that we don't have the full amount to begin with, and we try to prioritize and be nimble to those, we can certainly do the same.
Thank you.
And one more thing I would say is that over the last 4 years, we have been making huge strides on taking us out of that hole of deferred maintenance on the facility side. So this is, it will be just a step back, but we understand, we will respond appropriately.
No, we're not passing judgment on the efforts of the department on like making good on years of the required maintenance. We really know how hard this is. So thank you for the effort. I appreciate the information, and hopefully you guys win some games. So good luck. Don't get used to it. I'm Argentinian, so I can't help myself.
Can I ask about number 50? Do we have the ability to negotiate our NLC membership?
Yeah, we can actually terminate it. I believe so. Other cities
We
have
can
done it.
terminate it. We can't negotiate it.
Oh, you were asking if we can actually negotiate.
So this represents us terminating the NLC membership for a year.
Yeah, and
That was raised as an option.
Yeah, and I also suggested what Denver did, which is terminating the mayor's conference on NLC as an option as well. It sucks. We learn a lot of things from these conferences. I believe that the mayor does too.
But we're Small Lake City, and all of us have our representatives' numbers in our phone. So
I wonder, I would love to see the real impact of making these things happen. Even what will happen if the city would have taken a break for a year from those two, and I would like to make sure that the other piece that is not here that I mentioned, which is the mayor's conference, is included, and I would love to talk to the administration, the mayor's staff, and the mayor itself. To want to overstep on what she might see a lot more value on her side than ours. Councilmember Young is raised hand. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if this could be another one in that consideration space of a one-year, one-time reduction, so that it's revisited next year in terms of being still on the list for discussion, just not this year when we are where we are.
Would we still?
Thank you.
Would we
And just
still?
to
Would we still plan a visit for all of us to the delegation, just not in coordination with the NLC conference? Or would we table that? Because the savings then is significantly higher.
Yeah, I think those are discussions. I mean, attending the conference adds registration fees to this membership cost, so
And the
potentially,
travel expense.
and travel expenses, so potentially we could make a savings altogether for this 1 year as a pause for all of these two conferences, but I think it's worth discussing. As far as like, do we want to still do the visit? That's a different conversation, I believe, but I think it's worth to asking. Any other thoughts about this?
Is there any
Mr. Chair, I
leverage
just
on-
want-
Oh, sorry, Jennifer. Go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Jen.
Sorry. It's so hard. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt people.
No,
It's so
please
hard
do.
to. I just wanted to point out the Conference of Mayors budget was moved to the mayor's budget. So if you wanted to cut that, that would be in the mayor's budget.
I know, and I hate doing that. I just want to like add feedback because
Yep,
we are also
absolutely.
sacrificing our own NLC, potentially discussing about NLC attendance, which the mayor also attends, and I've seen her work quite hard in those conferences too. It's a tough conversation to have. I would not like to do that without the advice and the feedback from the mayors and the mayor's administration. But yes, I know that it got moved to the budget, to the mayor's office budget. So a tough conversation to have, could potentially mean a lot of savings. We'd love to see what the overall savings could be between the registrations and the travel. I think it could be very useful.
Did I also see there was a significant increase to our Utah League of Cities and Towns?
You want to increase?
I think I saw in the budget that there was a significant increase to it. I would never want to withdraw from that league, but I would perhaps want to negotiate any increase with them.
We have tried that in years past. They stick very strictly to a formula. The increase this year was $8,000 over $245,000. So can't do math in my head. It's based on your population,
Well,
your
then I-
sales tax.
Well, then I want to
Yeah.
renegotiate how we handle the homeless mitigation fund during legislative session.
Actually, Jill could probably speak to the last time we asked the league to change the formula for how our dues were calculated.
I mean, if we're pinching pennies.
Any other thoughts?
I wanted to, line number 47. So as I am learning, golf is an enterprise fund that has been supported over the past few years with general fund dollars, though the degree to which it's been supported has continued to go down over the years. Uh-oh, I'm seeing Jill. Sorry, Jill. And I am wondering, what might be the impact on operations, on delivery of services, et cetera, if we decrease from 500,000 to another amount to find some savings. And I'm looking at Allison. I know Allison did got some additional staff data that was shared with us, and also Director Kelly. But this is truly a question.
They're all truly questions.
So the subsidy to golf from the general fund, we completely eliminated this year, and it was a big hit. Originally, we thought we were going to phase this over 3 to 5 years, but we did it all in 1 year. That $500,000 that is left is to pay a debt on ESCO. Mary Beth could probably answer this better than I. ESCO was an energy-efficient program that the city entered into a decade or more. We've been paying it off for that decade. We had general fund ESCO initiatives like at the Steiner Center, and we had some at the golf course. we made a decision in building this budget that it wasn't fair to golf to have them pay this off. It ended up really not being what the city had hoped it would be. It wasn't something golf wanted to enter in. It was a city council at the time, and I hope I wasn't sitting there, but I might have been. We thought it was a great initiative citywide to save energy. So that's why we made the decision to keep paying it out of the general fund, even though the initiative was intended to help golf.
Thank you, Jill. To build on that, the $500,000 that are being reduced in the mayor's recommended budget will impact our CIP projects that go back into the golf courses as an enterprise fund. The revenue that they generate must go directly back into those courses to improve playability, player experience. So that could be something, for example, our Rose Park Golf Course irrigation program or project could be impacted, cart path repaving, things like that that improve the golfer experience. So we would advocate for maintaining that 500 subsidy, if you will, for that ESCO, because it does make a difference, and it's to no fault of golf's for making that decision. So.
The last thing I'll add in making this decision is knowing that we greatly reduced the subsidy from the general fund this year, completely eliminated with the exception of this ESCO payment, is we didn't want to impact golf's ability to be competitive with other courses because we want them to be self-sufficient. So having those capital dollars to do constant maintenance on trails and things like that was really important to us.
Thank you for that context. That's helpful. Sorry, one more question, sorry. What will it look like next year? Will it look like this again? Yes.
Gone.
Yes.
Mary Beth, does it go to 2030? I think it goes to 2030. So this 500,000 is something we'll be paying off till
The
then.
ghost of city councils past.
And you say we can't bind future councils.
Oh, with debt, we can always do that. Good information. I think that to me, that was a huge accomplishment from the administration to reduce the subsidy, like huge. And I know it was hard to do. So
Yeah, so hats off to the golf for what they've done with that, their capital improvements, because they've done a great job with the courses and with reducing their debt. Yep.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. So I mean, the amazing work the administration has done, like reducing this budget, is quite impressive. I mean, finding $13 million in savings, and it's just like really, really impressive. And we're going to have to find more savings next couple year. So any other items in the list or not in the list? Hopefully there are not that many not in the list, because we are getting close to the end of the budget, but I have one. So, but anybody else? I got it.
Could I ask, just for clarification, on the NLC membership, should we leave that as is, or was there support to make a change?
How do we feel about it, council members? It's a tough decision.
I think I would like to see what the true cost savings would be, including travel. I don't know. Would $12,797,000 in the general fund be nice to have when invariably the next fire or roof collapse or whatever is coming for us comes? Yes. Do I think anything is going to cost $12,000 in the city? No. So I'm caught where Chris was. Like, is this a drop in the bucket that's meaningful enough? Is the membership give us more ROI? So it's a hard. I would actually appreciate people with more insight than me helping me create a matrix on which I could evaluate this expense.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that it maybe is the answer to you, Jennifer. I'm not sure that gives you the clear direction. I will say though, my experience, and maybe it's unfair to use my experience this year on NLC, but this year was significantly different than in previous years.
I agree. From the conference perspective.
From the
not-
conference
yeah.
perspective, yes. And I would love to see what the administration and the council tell us we lose by losing this membership. And I know many cities have made this tough choice, but maybe there are things that we are losing access to information that may be worth the money. Same with the mayor's conference. I leave that up to them. I would hate to make a decision for that side of the table. But the conference was very different this year. The impact, the members of the federal administration that came to the conference was very limited, if any. The attendance to the conference itself was very thin, probably the smallest conference I've seen in NLC in years. So I was shocked to see it die, but it makes sense when you have a federal administration that's not helping cities and not supporting cities that are seeing less value of going to DC to lobby for resources. So I wanted to put that in there because, I also don't like to see some banners in some buildings that I wish they never existed. Not like that there. So any other thoughts? Yes. Okay, tree maintenance. There was and it's in public utilities, 36,000 public lands, Jesus Christ. A reduction that I would love to see if there is, could you do something with some little more money? Could you save some more trees or maintain more trees? I struggle with the maintenance of the trees. I'm seeing too many trees struggle, and they're so important for so many things. So if I can scrape some money from another cut and put it in there, will that make a difference? I'm not sure that $136,000 is possible this year. Maybe even zero is possible, but I wonder if you could see some value in some funding there. And you don't have to come. You can. Thank you. Thank you. I am struggling with the tree reduction, tree maintenance reduction. Okay, you're okay with that? You like exploring those questions, Councilmember Dugan? You have some trees dying in yours. Okay.
Do you have an amount in mind, Mr. Chair, or should we just kind of leave it open and work with the department to figure out what might be impactful?
Yeah, if the department tells us it's not, like, we cannot do anything less than 136,000, I get it. But my hope is that they can tell us for this amount of money and for this amount of money and for this amount of money, I can make this impact, maybe. And again, I don't want to cross too far into administrative sides of things. I just think that it's every year that we don't maintain, and our trees die quite quickly in our weather. I mean, they don't, they literally last the summer if we don't take care of them, and they're gone. Any other intents, thoughts, budget? Chris Warren? No? You're adjusting your microphone.
I guess what I'm struggling with is like trying to just be strategic and among like what everybody has expressed here today, because I do feel like we're to kind of contextualize what it is that we're trying to do. Because I feel like we share a lot of the same sentiments, but I'm not sure what the collective goal is with this discussion. Are we trying to cut so that we can tell residents that we cut even further, which is not a bad thing? Are we trying to cut in one place to put in another place? Is the purpose of this just to like be vetting and like really give our thorough oversight. I think these are all worthy things. My question is kind of the same that it was on Tuesday, is if there's a goal that, like a specific goal that we can all be working towards, I'm on board with that. But I kind of feel like we're getting I don't know. I just would ask what we're working towards as a group. Are we moving towards a consensus on something?
Councilmember Peter.
I'm happy to answer that. Those of you that I've spoken to, my goal is to make sure that we're mitigating reliance on fund balance while shoring up that fund balance. There are always unforeseen things. Last year, it was a fire that took out 4 of our downtown restaurants, and that we could not sit by while they just suffered. And our fund balance is in no way in a healthy enough spot for us to absorb that. I anticipate, we've already had a fire in your district. I do not anticipate an easy year. And so for me, every penny saved becomes the insurance. And I'm just really mad at myself that 2 years ago, I did not make the case with you all for that emergency savings account with the legislative parameters. I should have pushed harder, but I thought I was being a wet blanket. But that, for me, that's what I want to do is, our fund balance is in no way healthy enough to be able to absorb any unexpected thing. So for me, that's where I'm going. And I found alignment when I've spoken to a few of you.
Is it to get to a specific number or just any increase in fund balance?
For me, any increase is sufficient. If we can justify that the indemnification against the likelihood of something coming is of greater value, like if the 13,000 for NLC is of less value than the possibility that we have that and it's meaningful later on, that for me, that's a good metric.
Okay.
It's a really weird metric to try to operationalize for me.
Yeah. Okay. That helps me understand kind of where we're going.
Our new colleague had her hand up.
Who else feels that way?
Okay.
Or what are your other goals?
Hello, colleagues. I've just been sitting here observing. Thank you for your patience while I get up to speed, and I really appreciate the thoughtful analysis. I think while these surgical cuts do add up, and I do appreciate the, trying to support fund balance, it does feel like so much of this is at the margins. And I guess I would ask council staff, what real difference is it going to make on the tax increase? Is it going to be $2 per household?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I want to. 50 cents?
We have a chart in the unresolved issues staff report. I'm just trying.
You guys are well ahead of me. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's, in all the 10,000 pages of information we sent you on Tuesday night. So I'm just pulling it up here. Let's see. My computer will cooperate, which it's not. Lehua, can you pull it up?
I'm not trying to diminish symbolism. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think
But I also
we
want
have
to
a
look at it
calculation.
realistically, in real
We have a
terms. What is this going to
calculation
mean for our taxpayers?
Yep, totally. Oh, yes, perfect.
Thank you.
For $500,000 reduction, it's $4 a year or 37 cents monthly for an average residential, $12 a year or $1 monthly for for $1 million commercial property. We say $1 million commercial property, so commercial property owners can kind of easily do the math. Obviously, there's very few $1 million commercial properties in our city, but.
That's helpful. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Young.
Yeah, I'm just going to revisit Councilmember Wharton's question. Councilmember Wharton, for me, today was more so about having a conversation before we get our final budget numbers in, so that we are more we have a clearer kind of framework with which to operate once those numbers come in on Friday and we have to take action, or ideally we're taking action next Tuesday. So I don't disagree with the other framings, but I think for me, having these conversations today, I'm hoping allows us to be a little more expeditious in being able to take action if necessary post Friday numbers.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Wharton. I think similar to what Councilmember Petro said, and maybe this is my general anxiety kicking up, but I feel like something could come that we are not anticipating, and I'm very worried that we will not have the fund balance to respond to those things. And so that's where my general anxiety is coming from. Related to that, I also recognize that the property tax increase is still a property tax increase, even if the amount is not there. Residents are still feeling the increased cost of public utilities, perhaps even more so. So I feel more comfortable looking my folks on a fixed income in the eye and saying, I went through line by line, and maybe it was $4,000 or $2,000, but for me, it's a sense of integrity to say there are things I love, but I'm asking you to make some difficult decisions, and I'm willing to make those too. So that was what was behind mine. I understand it's surgical. I understand that in a budget of almost $500 million, asking about $25,000 or $50,000 is not going to change things. But for me, when I look at my residents and they tell me I'm looking at a reverse mortgage to pay my property taxes, I want to be able to at least say I did everything I could.
And I think context on the other entities have raised taxes and they're about to raise taxes is also important. County have done it. It's not just this $4 reduction on the tax, or I also the increases that are coming down the line as far as bonds, most likely for a library system that is looming in front of us as well. There is a lot of things coming down the pipe, and I feel like making those reductions now when it's tough, and most likely it's going to get worse next year. And I think it is all about all of these things to me that you mentioned. Is about saving and increasing our fund balance. Because, for example, we know from the presentations that most likely they're going to come back for gas and adjustment, because they are budgeting on with not that much cushion on there. The administration told us they're going to ask most likely for more gas money. So we know that that's coming. We already have a fund balance that is very in the edge of things. So I am seeing us also as very much our role as council members. And this is a different budget on how we've done it in the past because of how the law is and how the process is very different and uncomfortable. And this is why it's creating some of these anxieties. And I fully aware that I might have made a lot of angry people in this meeting today. But it is an opportunity to sincerely talk about those $4,000 and $2,000 and $25,000 and see if we can painfully cut them. I don't find any joy in most of the things, even on the cloud watching. I sincerely do. I know that there is value on those, quality of living. I think they make our city worth more. I'm not saying that those things are worthless. What I'm saying is I do hear with our utilities going up and our garbage fees going up, our taxes going up, the county's taxes going up, we most likely having to do a tax increase next year, on top of the library having to do a bond. We're piling and piling and piling, and I want to try my best to squeeze a little more. I sincerely I think that this administration has proven incredible on reducing the budget never seen anything like this happen. I don't think any entity in the state have been able to reduce the percentage of money that this administration have reduced on their budget. It's incredible. And we're probably talking about, if we add all of these things, maybe $1 million, $1.5 million, I don't know, depending. Not a lot of money, but I think the impact is meaningful symbolically, but also to try to make the impacts of all of these tax increases a little less painful. So,
I appreciate everybody answering, and I asked that question genuinely, and my response is, or when I say I think all of the reasons are valid, I think that I stand by that, and I guess my fear sometimes is that there is like the false economy fallacy of putting so much effort or putting someone who might drive 15 miles to try to get to save 5 cents on gas, but they end like the wear and tear to the vehicle, the cost to the environment, like all of these things ends up not being, the juice is not worth the squeeze, so to speak. And so for me, it's better if we say, this is the goal that we're trying to achieve, and we know that that this amount of cut will translate to a measurable difference in a resident's pocketbook. Whereas one that's like that 5 digits past the decimal point, but it ends up resulting in us having a broken boiler, or it ends up in us, cutting somebody, cutting a job or laying somebody off. That's, one more person that's unemployed. And so I'm all for the cuts, but for me to support any proposal to make a cut, like I need to know that it's gonna mean something to the residents. And this is not suggesting that any proposal doesn't mean anything. That's just what keeps going through my mind as we go through one budget item at a time, is I'm like, okay, listening to the arguments on both sides, and I come to a conclusion about how I feel about a particular budget item. But then when we get to the end of the discussion, I'm like, okay, so where did we land on these things? Which were the things that we decided were worthwhile and weren't. So I guess that's where I appreciate the discussion. I learned a lot, but I also want to know what the culmination of it would be.
I'm a little lost, but I appreciate your thoughts. I am just like, as far as what the goal is and if it's like a meaningful impact, I think to me that's debatable, right? Like maybe $4 to you is not, or to me is not, but for someone is. And that's, I don't know if we're gonna find agreement on that, right? But I'm seeing $4 in the context of all those increases and the cost of living increases. And maybe how I frame this is, even if I had the money to pay for all the things that was proposed in this budget, will I do it? And I will say that I still think that some of those changes are worth to make in that budget. And it is in my role, but it's also like, I feel like there is some squeezing to do anyways, even if I had the money to pay for every single thing in there. So maybe there are less changes, but I think that there is some adjustments from my point of view.
Yeah, I don't disagree that like, for me, it's not about like, is $4 worth it or not? For me, it's about like, can we tie this to like a measurable impact? Because $4, whether you make this much money overall, or whether you're already strapped because your expenses are higher and your pay is higher, like if you can't afford it, you can't afford it, right? If you're already strapped. So I don't want to get into a debate of like, well, a dollar to you is worth more than a dollar to me, I want to say this is why this particular cut like helps us get to a greater goal that is that has a measurable impacts on people's lives.
But I
That
think
makes sense.
the other side of that coin is, so you'll notice I haven't suggested that we cut the property tax increase. The questions and the conversations in District 1 have turned to, how do we make this increase worth your time? What do you need to see? And so as we're looking at a bunch of these cuts, like, I keep going back to the NLC one, but like, I'm going to consider that because I think that could be a $13,000 buffer plus whatever the travel expenses are for whenever we have the pipe burst and we need to do some mitigation at a local restaurant so we don't lose the revenue, right? Like I don't know what's coming for us, but I know it always comes for us. And so maintaining that responsiveness has to be a priority because we do need to. We have to make sure that the people who trust us to keep them employed can afford to live where they live and they're not displaced. We need to make sure that the neighbors who trust us with their dollars can still count on us to show up in the most basic ways. And so I think for me, the other side of that coin is just saying, how do we make sure that whatever dollar gets allocated is getting allocated in a way that has the greatest likelihood for a direct impact in the communities that are trusting us right now. And so I'm with you. I actually didn't suggest any of the moving of the money because I think this was a really masterfully done budget. But if we're going to pinch pennies, I think these are really necessary conversations. And I also think it's time for us to start disagreeing more on the public record and to let people see how the sausage is made. I think part of restoring trust in these institutions is allowing people to see that we don't agree, that, and I trust all of you to honor my dignity as I honor yours, but I think we need to have hard conversations and we need to let people at least have an artifact if they're not tuned in right now, as only 3 of them are, but like have an artifact to go back to say, no, we did actually consider this top to bottom, front to back, inside out, in private and in front of you. I think this over-reliance on never disagreeing and being unanimous could end up hurting us. So I think it's actually a really healthy exercise for us to have these kinds of conversations and to make sure people know all things were considered.
Do you think you and I should disagree more? I mean, is that something that...
As long as your adoration and love for me personally increases with proportion that we disagree on the public record, yes.
Like, I want to meet the constituent that's watching and is like, Chris and Victoria are just too aligned on everything.
So I want to kind of circle back to what I talked about at the beginning in terms of values. One thing that has been, this is my first budget rodeo, and one thing that has been going through my head is that I got a demographics report and almost 20% of my seniors live in poverty. That keeps me up at night. When there's proposals like the budget we received where there are reductions in staff, I don't take that lightly. Both of my parents were civil servants. I had health insurance because they worked for the state or the county. I don't take those cuts lightly at all. But I feel a deep sense of responsibility to the people of Salt Lake City and to be a responsible steward for every dollar. And I'm also very concerned about how we will be able to give our non-represented staff next year a raise, because we haven't talked about that yet, because they're not getting one this year. And so that's also on my mind as well.
Councilmember Dugan.
I love this conversation. This is where we should be having this conversation and looking at it. The mayor did a great job. The department did a great job on cutting things as much as we could. We also took a knife to this also. And yes, 1/13, possibly, maybe even less, of the property tax increase. Maybe 50 cents per month for an average property owner, residential property owner. But we also know that we could see a couple $1 million in the future for budget amendments for unexpected things. And we don't know where our sales tax are. So this exercise was good so that we are actually a little bit more in tune on what we're spending our money on, what we're spending our residents' money on, but also gives us, the departments, the realization that we may be coming back here in 4 months or 6 months when we get another sales tax numbers and say, we may have to do this again. And they should start they need to look at their budgets now with the same vision on how we make sure that our fund balance stays at a level, that our bond rating stays high, so we don't have other expenses, and that so maybe we can also look for the future to have a pay raise. So yes, these are surgical in nature, but without this surgery, we'd have a bigger problem in a year. So thanks. I love the discussion, and I'm so glad we're here today. I love having a Thursday afternoon with you guys.
I will one of the things that it adds stress to me is the closure of the South Palace and the impacts on our sales taxes. Additionally, the Delta Center under construction through the summer, and not having all of those people and all of those concerts and the sales tax impact. Excuse me? Yes, South Palace, yeah. So all of those two things, I feel like the impact in this next year budget, it's going to be problematic. And so I feel like making these small little cuts now, because I think I'm going to have to make harder decisions later. And I don't doubt that Denver and Las Vegas, they had to let off hundreds of people. They didn't make those easily. And I worry that we're headed that direction. And cutting some programs, and the majority of the cuts suggested here are programs, not people, is our attempt to minimize that, because that's not what we want. So as I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you, Chris, from bringing that up. I think I got all the feelings out. I don't think anybody really is making this happily. So I think that we probably talked too much. Item number 2 is a tentative budget item that is a standard in our agenda per the law, which is the fiscal year 2026-2027 property tax impact schedule, which is posted on the agenda and available to anybody. There is no reports, and there are reports from the executive director, I believe. Jennifer Lehua.
One announcement. Can I skip to that?
Yes.
With the new city council member, we were just hoping to schedule a time that works for the council to take a new group photo. And we can wait and check back with you on Tuesday unless you all want to do it on Tuesday.
Let's get it over with.
1:30 it would be, or just 30 minutes prior to whatever time your work session begins, if that works for you. 2 o'clock, so 1:30, sure.
So,
Right now, we're
1:30.
planning on starting at 2 o'clock, so it would be 1:30 if that works for you.
You're a key part of that photo, just saying. So if you cannot make it.
I can reschedule my documents.
No.
Well, it's at 2, so I'm gonna have to reschedule.
So, okay, then it works, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so get all glammed up. Yeah. Chris, we'll start 3 hours early.
We'll take the color conversation to a text thread.
The
Okay.
color conversation?
Yeah, we coordinate colors. You got it.
We might do the
Gotta
color
have
coordination thing, although, yeah, I have thoughts. I think that concludes our work session for today. I appreciate everybody coming here, all department directors that participated and the ones that helped with text and the information, the administration being here as well. So see you on Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.